But if the retirement board recommendation isn't a good one, then show me a better one. I think it's good for this period of time, and that's why I support, and part of the motion, to make sure that we would be reviewed again within a year. But we have to, as was stated, we have to, because the enrollment period is coming up, we have to have a period of time where people know. So if this isn't if the retirement board recommendation isn't a good one, then show me a better one. But our job here is to make decisions, and we have to move on from this day forward. And the worst thing we can do is not make a decision.
Thank you, Supervisor. Supervisor Smith.
Thank you. Well, to answer Supervisor Pinch's question, I think that the retirement board's recommendation is a good one. I don't think it goes personally far enough, being the fiscal conservative that I am, but I think it's a good compromise, and I think that we ought to do it. The point that's not being addressed in this current discussion about what was promised in '98 is that document has nothing to do with the quality of the health care. There's a big difference between what retirees get now, which is commonly referred to as a Cadillac plan, and everyone knows it is, especially the employees, all of us included, who have a lesser benefit in terms of health care, and a catastrophic plan, and there's everything in between. And that document does not address that issue. So it's fine to talk about what was promised in health care. Health care is not all the same. And so if we don't start taking prudent, conservative, long-term views with how that plan is funded, the quality of that benefit, I guarantee you over the next couple of years will be eroded. And I don't think, I have fought very hard and worked very hard over the last 3 years to keep the retirement benefit on track, to make sure it's a quality plan and come up with creative and positive long-term solutions. That's what I'm committed to, and that's what I think this action is beginning to address. So short of taking that benefit and chopping it into pieces and leaving very little left for the retirees, that's where counties usually go when this dilemma is before them. It's either shared costs or seriously reducing the benefit. And I don't think anyone wants to see that happen, particularly me. So I think that we ought to move forward and vote on this issue, because I think it's critical that we take this step and everyone can be unified on it. I think it's important we do it.
Thanks, Supervisor. Any further discussion?
Just one other comment. I have a lot of confidence in the people that are on the retirement board, and I'm going to depend on them for their good judgment. And on the other side, we're up here, we have to try to protect the county resources and the general fund and all that. But I'm going to weigh heavy on I know quite a few of the members involved in the retirement board, and I hope with this issue it's going to get the Retirement Association more involved in the retirement board. But I'm going to rely on their recommendation for doing the right time, because the future of the retirement system and the health benefit system, there's nobody that's more important to than the retirement board. And so I'm going to lean heavy on their recommendation.
Thanks, Supervisor. I'm going to chime in here. I like the retiree board recommendation, but to me it does not address, which I believe is a promise to the pre-1998 folks. I might not agree with that promise, but I believe A, it was a promise, and B, it's up to me to uphold that promise. Now, whether or not it was an educated promise or an understood promise or whatever, I've heard from enough retirees that they believe it was a promise that they would not have to contribute. So I don't see this motion addressing that. I think there's going to be 3 votes to approve it. We've spent several hours already discussing this. I'm going to be voting against the motion, even though I like the way it was headed, but it doesn't address the pre-1998 folks. And so I think at this point, I was going to call for the vote, but Supervisor Colfax.
Mr. Chairman, I sat through those hearings back in 1998. I was elected to office 2 or 3 months later. I do not qualify for those benefits. But that discussion, when it was brought forward in '98, was taken in a very awkward, it was an awkward, painful decision and had to be made. There was no promise implicit in this. It was, if you take a careful look at the document that underwrites this, the failure to take responsibility for this right now is leaving each and every one of you who have the benefit that ended on January 1, 1999, when I came on this job. Never think I'd be on the job some 10 years later and qualifying for retirement benefits. That was not part of my thinking. But I make the point here. I sat there trying to figure out exactly what the supervisors were trying to do and where they were going. And I think they made a good decision. It was a very prudent decision. I find it unfortunate here that we're going to have a 3-2 vote here on this item when, in fact, back then, a much harder decision was made with the document and the content of that document laying out a plan that so far has worked. But if we don't pay